Like humans want success. We want victory. We want competition. We want celebration. We want to love each other. We don't want death. We don't want racism. We have unlimited resources. Let's come together. We want life. We want it now. We want the stars, and we're going to have it. And anyone that tries to stand in the way of it will be cut off from the spirit. They will be cut off from humanity. We're not going to put them in hell. They are on their own side. They are cut off from this. I want to be with Brian Rose and David Icke in the universe. I don't want to be with these devil worshipers and control freaks. I mean, give me a break, man. You just said it. You're getting banned everywhere for David Icke. You haven't backed down. It isn't the private jet. It isn't the supermodel that makes the man. It's the will. It's that destiny that makes everything. And it's that I support. It's that I want. I'm not a man that looks at other successful men and feels disempowered. I'm a man too. I feel the wealth of our community together and the spirit rising. That is the future, and that will never be defeated.
The world is changing. Inspiration is everywhere. It has never been so easy to connect, share, and bring people together. We're learning from others and finding the best in ourselves. Challenging our beliefs, sharing our vulnerability, overcoming our fears, transforming ourselves so we can transform the world. How far can we go?
This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is... This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is Alex Jones, the American broadcaster, journalist, and founder of the independent media platform InfoWars. You have been described as one of the most important political media figures in the country and as America's leading conspiracy theorist, and were famously endorsed by President Donald Trump. Over the past 3 decades, you've investigated some of the most controversial moments in history, including the Oklahoma City bombing, the 9/11 attacks, and the Bilderberg Group. In 1999, you launched InfoWars, which now receives 10 million visitors every month, making it more popular than Newsweek or The Economist. In 2018, your channels with over 5 billion views were removed from Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and 100 other social media and technology platforms in a similar battle that I am currently fighting. Alex, welcome to London Real.
Brian, it's great to be here. Been a fan for years.
Alex, it's great having you here. I love being on your show last week, and we spoke about what's happened to me recently, which was my banned interview with David Icke. It was the second largest stream on YouTube in the world, second only to Donald Trump that day, and yet 30 minutes later it was pulled. Then I was banned on Facebook and Instagram. Since we spoke, Alex, I was banned on Vimeo, Dropbox, and LinkedIn, deleted my personal and corporate account on a Sunday. It's getting pretty crazy over here. I was broadcasting for 9 years, but now I'm starting to understand what it feels like to be in your shoes. Alex, maybe you can start off by giving me some advice here. What is actually happening to me? Because I'm not used to this space, and maybe you can tell me what's actually going on with me and what should I expect to happen in the following months and maybe year?
Well, Brian, your problem is you're authentic, you're real. I've never met you in person, watched you for years. You come across as real. I feel good looking at you. My gut, that's 1,000 times more powerful than my conscious mind. The gut's really your subconscious mind. Says this is a guy I can trust. And then I look at the information you talk about. I check it. As Reagan said, trust but verify. And it's very, very accurate. It's very, very wide spectrum. So because you're not a controlled globalist psychotic, and because you're popular with the people, and because they can see the logarithmic systems showing that you're rising, they want to whack-a-mole. And really, that's what this comes down to. Anything popular, anything authentic, anything pro-human, that's what the system wants to shut down. That's what this is all about.
You know, it's been fascinating, Alex, because I looked at videos all over YouTube that had the same subject matter that I was banned for, specifically the linking of 5G and the coronavirus, and I want to get your thoughts on that shortly. The group Anonymous, I'm sure you're familiar with them, they ripped 11 minutes from that same interview and put it on the homepage of their YouTube channel with 2.7 million subscribers, and that stays up. It's almost like they banned me because I'm popular, Alex. And the same thing happened to you. It's the strangest thing. It's because it was watched by everybody that they want to take it down, and yet the smaller things they leave up. Again, strange for people to understand that.
They want to punish you to see if you will end up joining them and groveling and coming to them and saying, I'll do whatever you say, just leave me alone. They're not worried about the derivatives of it. They're worried about the fount or the source of it. And again, what did you say in that interview? What does your guest David Icke say? They talked about the Wuhan bioweapons level 4 lab and how it probably came out of there. Well, since you did that interview a week and a half ago, it's been confirmed that it was a bioweapons release out of Wuhan, and the Associated Press has the documents. And now the U.S. is on the edge of war with China. So the fact is, you weren't supposed to talk about that, not because you were lying, but because it was true. And so that's why you've been punished. So it's really a badge of courage what happened to you.
You know, it's so strange to be in this situation. You never think, you know, until it happens to you, you never think it's going to happen to you, right, Alex? And you know, you were at one of the height of your popularities when this happened to you. And again, you know, what should I expect? You said that they potentially are going to come after me financially, maybe my reputation, you know, and I'm pushing ahead with this. Today we announced Rose Icke 3 on May 3rd. We want to conduct the largest live stream in human history of a conversation. We're going to do it on our platform. We want to get 1 million people simultaneously watching. I'm staying off of their platforms. But like, you know, pulling this off might be tricky, but like, I want to move forward with this because as a kid, I never liked it when people told me what to do.
Well,
but based on that, what should I expect?
That jumped on top of you and is punching you in the nose. And Brian, it's not about kissing your ass. It's about celebrating what you're doing and actually promoting it, because they've sold this idea of submission is the way to get ahead in life. And so people submit and they submit and they submit. And then you're an eclectic guy doing all sorts of great interviews. You're popular with conservatives, with liberals, with, you know, Christians, with Muslims, with Gnostics, with Hindus. They really fear the truth of just somebody that's common sense and who's celebrating humanity. And so if you're not being attacked, if you're not being banned, if you're not being blocked, you really are serving their system. And if they're promoting you and pushing you, then it means you're going in the wrong direction. So when they blocked that interview and when you didn't grovel properly and when you went out and talked about it, when you went out and said, this is wrong, they went, well, let's show him and others that we're now going to take more away from him. And then the fact that you don't bow more to that, well, now they're going to try to punish you more. But once they get the system in place, which is only 6 months, a year out, everyone is going to be censored. Even if you're praising what they say, they're going to block you because they want the dehumanization of people being totally alone. They don't want that real currency. It's not the money. It's not the fame. That's not what we want. It's that interaction with humans. And for me, being on YouTube or Twitter, it was reading all the cool comments, folks that agreed, people that disagreed, people that kind of halfway agreed but had a point to make. It was that amazing human interaction that was so sexy and so addicting. And the system knows that they can't trump that. So that's why they want us socially isolated. That's why they don't want comment pages on any of the major sites or any of the major news sites, because they don't want that human interaction that always votes the Brian Rose to the top, that always votes the David Icke to the top, that always votes the Alex Jones to the top. They have never been able to defeat that. And so they keep looking for a system to get the David Ickes or the Alex Joneses or the Brian Roses to submit to them. When YouTube calls you up and says, Brian, you've been a bad boy, you're supposed to say, tell me what to say. And they go, good, good. And now they've got control of you. But what's the point of fame if you're just a puppet, a marionette, like one of those dolls they put on your leg? What do you call them, where you sit there and
yeah, the ventriloquist.
A ventriloquist doll. What is the point of that? You're not yourself. You're not authentic. So we need to celebrate the people that tell it like it is and that are persecuted and don't back down, because there's coming a tipping point where they've tried to intimidate everybody and try to shut everybody down. It's not working, that they fail. And that's why they're so scared right now. So, yeah, it's rough for you. 9 years, successful, reaching millions of people every day, and now to see them coming after you. But you're a victim of your human success. You're a victim of creating authenticity. And we talked about that courage that's infectious. And so now that you're not backing down, well, now they've really got to make an example of you, because what happens if other people see what Brian Rose did and he didn't back down? Well, then there might be a coalition of people around the world who stand up and then build their own platforms that will immediately displace these other authoritarian platforms. Because the authoritarian platforms say all day, we're going to censor you because it's our platform. But really, they're trying to control all the other platforms like they told you. Don't talk about how we censored you off platform and we'll censor you. That is true tyranny.
Yeah, that's so fascinating, Alex. You really understand this. It's so subtle as well. And, you know, a hashtag started trending called hashtag London Real Army. And there was a bunch of people around the world that literally started shutting their LinkedIn accounts down, you know, and like pledging support and going up and saying how ridiculous it was. So there is a movement going on out there. But you're right, it's the humanity of what was happening with me and David in that room. It's like real people having a real emotional, unedited conversation that has something. Even David was like, Brian, the energy in this room is high. And so people are feeling that. Like you said, it's very subtle. It's your gut. And that is different than a montage to music of 5G towers, and maybe they're not as worried about those
exactly.
things.
People know reality and gut level, and the authenticity is the only currency. That's what art and life and will and sex and power and everything is about, empowering humanity. And if you're not empowering humanity, you're the enemy. And so I know all these people that have all this money and all this power, and they're like, all I want is authenticity. That's all I want. That's the only currency of the realm. And that's why they want to remove that, because it is that authenticity that is diametrically opposed to what they're establishing.
Man, you got me really thinking hard here, Alex. The other thing they can normally do with 99.9% of the YouTubers out there is pull the purse strings. So first they demonetize the videos, which is a nice way of saying, please don't do that. And that's enough to stop most of them. But then the rest of them, when they take away their channel, they take away their business. Now, luckily, I've never relied on any social channels to pay the bills around here. And you haven't either, which meant you can build an entire empire and do it your way, which is the thing that doesn't get talked about a lot. Because you're such a great entrepreneur and because we've made some moves, it means we can do these things. And again, they have less power you know, in this current situation. So again, we're a bit of an anomaly for these platforms to deal with.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. If the globalists weren't so anti-human and so evil, I'd make deals with them. If they were some new conquering thing that was better, I'd say, I'll adopt what you're doing. They're not. They're taking us backwards. And listeners have to understand that, I'll just tell a story here. You know, Ted Nugent, I've known Ted Nugent 20 years, and I've been to his house and hung out with him and his wife. And you know, they're big listeners. And, you know, I was talking to Ted a couple of years ago at his house, drinking coffee, and he said, you know, I used to be able to fill any concert if I wanted to, but there's only 3 companies that own it. And he said, as soon as I supported Trump, it wasn't supporting the NRA before that. As soon as he supported Trump, none of those venues would ever have him play again. So he goes and plays at convention centers and city-owned deals and veteran deals. He doesn't care about the money, but he lost about $15 million a year that he would personally make off that. And he said, you know what, Alex? He said, losing that money spiritually was like when I made the decision to not bow to their threats when they said, don't support President Trump or you're banned at the 3 venues. 3 companies own all the venues. He said, it was like I was even more alive, and I was already so alive. And we talked about that. So there's this thing where authenticity is a spiritual coin. And that's what the enemy can't stand is as soon as we realize that we have the intuitive will, we control the universe, we're building the future, and stop letting these social engineers control us through fear, it doesn't matter how small our audience is, it will exponentially build immediately because there are people looking for that free will. And so, yeah, I've lost hundreds of millions of dollars by not selling out. I don't care. It's all just a tool. But then it all came back. As soon as one door closed, all these other doors opened. And it's the same thing with people like Ted Nugent. He's not going to live with a thing with a stranglehold around him. We're building the new universe. We're escaping the tyranny. And so that's why you look at the Bible, it talks about get behind me, Satan. You know, the archetype of Satan is always getting in front of your progress. He's not innovating. He's not building new stuff. He comes in to those of us made in the image of the Creator that can build, and he convinces us to be his slave, and he won't attack us. He won't raid us. Instead, we have to just punch forward, build the future, and always be innovating, and Satan can't keep up.
Alex, how did you feel when you got taken off those platforms? Did you always know what the other side was going to look like? Did you feel it in your heart, or was there panic? Like, what were those weeks like? And when did you finally realize that not only would you be okay, but you would be further empowered?
My dad, about 2.5 years ago, who's a smart guy and a confidant and a friend, he came over to my house on like a Saturday morning, and he said, son, you're really attacking big tech. You're really going after the system. You're going to get banned everywhere. And I said, well, that's my plan. And I said, I don't want to get banned, but if I'm going to get banned, I want to be banned first and foremost, because they're not going to remember all the folks that get banned after that. And I want to get banned up front so that I'm an archetype, so that later I can get people mobilized to fight what's happening. So you asked the question of, did I feel disempowered by it? No, I mean, I expected being used as the example of what not to be as the greatest example of what to be. But the worst feeling I had of defeat and humiliation was never getting a place in the country, never believing we would lose, never believing they'd cause martial law and the shutdown of the economy, and then finally having to talk to family that's got land in East Texas and saying, can I put a trailer on that? It's quick and cheap. Can I put a well in? Can I get food and stuff out there in case we fail? Everything shuts down. For the first time, not to just be thinking offensively about stopping this, but to have to actually go out and set up the emergency backup. And it felt weird and selfish to be sitting there on this private lake, family property we've had, you know, since the Mexican land grant, and they're at the house in a fire, and we're doing good, and, you know, and I've got family all around me that are veterans and, you know, that live in the area that, you know how to skin a buck and run a trot line and do other things. And just realizing this is the greatest defeat of my life, that America is so close to death and total depression, and I have finally hauled food and guns and everything out and gotten wells ready and gotten my little private prison ready because things are so bad. And so I shared that with people, but that's how far down the things have basically ticked. And that's where we are now. Now, because I always spent 100% of my energy, we're going to win on the future. But looking at my 3 daughters, I got a son too, but he's now, you know, 17. But looking at my daughters, 15, 12, and 3, I just said, you know, things are so bad, and the public on average is so weak. A lot of great people, but on average, so into this tyranny theater. I said, I have to kind of be like Yoda in episode 3 of Star Wars, getting ready to leave for Dagobah. I mean, I've got to like get ready to like just out of here and hope Luke Skywalker comes down the road. I mean, it's that bad, my friend. And I don't want to be negative here, because letting people know how bad it is may spur some type of resistance in them to break out of this. But there was a huge awakening, but now we've been hit with this giant tyranny, and it's just a very sad moment. So I didn't feel bad when I got mass banned 2.5 years ago, or when a year ago Facebook said that Jones, you can't even say his name unless it's in a negative connotation. Talk about a cult. But I did feel bad having to like prepare an evacuation and to think about the fall of the Republic and the end of America and the long communist civil war.
And this is the last couple weeks where you're feeling that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even a selfishness. It's a like your instinct told you to do this and you didn't do this, and you need to care about your children. And, you know, it's the feds. Yeah, they've got the feds trying to indict me right now for made up stuff. And they call up and threaten and say, we're going to put you in prison and do this. And, you know, it's way beyond being deplatformed. And it doesn't make you want to give up. It makes you think, man, there's this many Americans that are pieces of authoritarian trash. Maybe I should just give the whole thing up and let them have themselves. But, you know, I'm just being honest. Brian, I don't even know where this is going at this point. It's just that, it's just that we have a really predatory, evil world government. And at a gut level, if I fight them, I feel alive and feel strong and feel close to God. If I try to mitigate things or protect myself or sell out, I feel like I'm dying and drowning. And so even, like I said, having a boogie point and even the beginning of the idea of, okay, this is so horrible, we may not be able to stop this round. It's like dying, but it's something I've got to do. So I'm not here on air announcing the white flag and we're defeated. I'm just letting listeners and viewers and people know, folks, this ain't a joke, man. This is hardcore Maoist re-education, great leap forward, starving out everybody, social engineering 101. And I just hope people realize that groveling to this is not going to protect them. And most people don't have an out. Most people, you know, can't do what I can do or what others can do. And that's what really scares me is I've tried to rally them. I've tried to get them ready. I've tried to prepare them. I've tried to warn them. And at a certain point, they're just going to have to be abandoned. Now, Trump may turn this around, and that's a whole other subject with the Chi-Coms and the infiltration of our government and how we became like this. And so if there were people in our government and the system that didn't want this to happen, there's still time to turn it around, Brian. It's just that the stakes are so dire, and Trump keeps winning, and America and freedom keeps winning, but barely. And then the tyrants double down again exponentially, and then we barely beat them. Well, there's not much more logarithmically for them to do except, you know, a bioweapon 10 times worse or nuclear war. I mean, things have escalated. I mean, it's in the news today that, okay, Wuhan bioweapon, they accidentally released it. Well, we already knew that. They released it on purpose. Look at all the scripting, the pre-programming, the World War, the attacks on the economy, China losing the trade war. I mean, they released this with a deep state to embarrass America, to bring down the West. China's open for business. We're not open for business. It's an economic weapon. And then the question is, well, what do they do if we defeat this? What do they launch next? It just becomes an issue of what do we do then? Because it really becomes a kill or be killed. And I don't mean that literally. I'm just saying metaphysically, people don't recognize a World War I or a World War II. They don't recognize something that hadn't happened in a long time until it's happening to them. And there's no doubt now that we're in that period that leads to giant wars, famines, and mass death. And I hate to be the guy here announcing that like some prophet of doom. I'm actually saying people should get ready. And maybe if the globalists left, backed off, and maybe if they didn't entice China and others to launch all these attacks, and maybe if China thought America wasn't on China's side to bring down the Republic, maybe China wouldn't do it. But China tunes into MSNBC and CNN, and it tunes into Congress saying Trump's the enemy and America's the enemy and families are the enemy and guns are the enemy and mobility, and China's open for business. They take that as a green light to keep going. And the average American thinks it's fashionable and cool to attack America and to attack freedom. And they don't know they're summoning the Armageddon. They're summoning the battle of the gods, the Doomer Gamarong, the Uber Gamarong, the end of the world potentially. At least the Guter Damarong, the end of our lives.
And so what could people do right now? If they could say, you could speak to them for 2 minutes about the reality of the situation and what they could do to act. I'm guessing there are things that Americans and Western Europeans could do right now to get us out of this situation, or is it too late?
Brian, I think it's far from too late. But people have to face the fact that giving up their liberties for supposed freedoms always produces slavery. And so the idea that a virus that's killed less people in the United States than the flu killed in 2018, the idea that we need to take forced inoculations and stay in our homes and wear a mask, all of this is a ritual of submission. And so I see Pennsylvania Senate passing a law that the governor can't keep people locked in their houses. Or, you know, I see Congress preparing acts to say churches can stay open if Walmart can. But if they don't see a major pushback, this will be taken as a green light, then there is no hope. And I get why people submitted to this. I mean, you had China with people being welded in their houses and women shot at checkpoints and drones and stuff like Day of the Dead, and people flopping around dying. And we now know most of that was theater. I've got articles right here today. Mother enraged by face mask ad claiming her whole family died of COVID-19. She just paid for some stock photo as a modeling agency a couple of years ago. And they put the ad out saying her whole family died. Her children died. None of it was real. Here's another one right here. UK hospital beds 4 times emptier than usual. The NIH admits. So the virus is real, and it came out of a Wuhan bioweapons lab, but only so big foundations could own the RNA of the virus to have a vaccine later. They couldn't patent the regular cold virus, which you can't have a vaccine for because it mutates. So you create a new cold virus, it's a chimera, then you can patent that and own the vaccine, own the hysteria, own the test, own the societal control. And so again, if people don't realize that this is all a psyop, fear-mongering exercise, I mean, I live in Austin. They've had 9 deaths from COVID-19. They admit most of the tests are false. If you've ever had the cold virus, it says you have COVID-19. That's Travis County with 2.5 million people in it, not just Austin. Okay. And they've had 9 dead people. The flu killed thousands here this year. So you say that to people, but if I try to go to a grocery store, they're all wearing masks, which is now the new symbol of slavery, the new handcuffs. And they're just like, put your mask on, put your mask on. And so it's that rallying the public into the stampede, into the crazy-eyed hysteria that, again, summons the globalists to make this a permanent emergency they're now announcing. And apps with Google and Apple merge to surveil where you go and what you do and forced inoculations. And Bill and Melinda Gates with their ID 2020 saying, oh, we're going to put a digital tattoo ink in the vaccine. You won't be able to see it, but it'll prove you've had it so we can scan your body. I mean, this is a giant leap forward of tyranny, way past what we could even have imagined a few years ago, and now it's here.
Yeah, and the fear is fascinating. They did a survey here, Alex, in London, and 9 out of 10 people support the lockdown continuing for 3 and 4 weeks. These are the same people who are losing all of their economic freedom, and yet they're so scared that they'd rather stay locked down. Now, I walk around, I'm not wearing a mask. But, you know, in New York City now, it's mandatory. And now you're getting persecuted by other people if you're not wearing the mask, which is something, of course, Ike went into as well, where the fear is so much that now you're self-policed. And we've seen this happen in history. I mean, we see Trump trying to get everybody back to work. Is that the ultimate solution? Because this is an economic war.
Well, that's right. I mean, I can rant and rave all day long because there's so many facets to this, but it's about fear versus love, as David Icke says. It's about reality versus fake science. All these projections had 2, 3, 4 million dead by now, and it's a couple 100,000. It's 90+% lower than what they said, but we're supposed to just listen to these experts as if they're God. We have the West Coast and the East Coast saying we formed an alliance of science. We're never reopening. So first they told us 2 months ago, oh, it's just 2 weeks. It's like an extended spring break. And I said, watch, it's not going to be that. It's going to be forever, because the UN already admitted in their white papers they wanted 18 months until the forced inoculation, until you have the app proving you have the antibody. And now it's a medical tyranny that puts on apps what your antibodies are so they can test you and control you. This is a biblical power grab so massive that it's meant to just overwhelm us by how huge and how false it is, but the whole thing is based on lies and is based on fraud. And you mentioned New York City, where I live under Mayor Adler, this little UN globalist, in Austin, Texas, and they got the county to agree, 2+ million people. They say they will arrest you if you're not wearing a mask in public. And I know crew members who have been pulled over in their car, not wearing a mask, by police saying next time a $1,000 fine. And in the UK, all the videos coming out of they knock a guy's door down going, we hear there's a party here. There's not even a party. They just knock his door down and leave. Or police coming and spitting, in a guy's face. They're talking so angry, saying, you're out here filming us, telling people not to be in a park. You're going to kill people. So listen, now Italy's saying at the beach they're going to have glass enclosures for each family, and you pay for those to be able to go into these bubbles. This is a psyop. It's inducing us into a medical tyranny. And then, as I said in my film Endgame that I put out 14 years ago, then the real bioattacks are going to come because we've proven we'll sit in place and submit when the next big one comes. Because there's the number one thing I'm going to tell you today. The globalists are scared of releasing a real bioweapon that's actually killing 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90% of people like a man-made mousepox would do. So they need to drill you with something that doesn't really kill a lot of people to show that you lock down, you put the handcuffs on, you stay in your house when the drone flies over and sprays it out. Then the robots come along with a trash truck, pick you and your dead family up, throw you in the back. This is all a test to see if they can launch the big bioattack in the future and take us all down with the 5G and all the big studies. Oh, we can't talk about 5G, sorry. The studies show 5G boosts your immunity. Look up 5G immunity. 5G is good. 5G makes you live forever. 5G is not connected to COVID-19. 5G, 4G, 3G, all of it. Cell phone radiation is good. Radiation is good. Radiation is love. There you go. Now, Mr. Rose, they won't get mad at us.
What do you make of the 5G stuff?
Well, the reason 5G is really bad is, even here in Austin, just AT&T has half the roads covered. Where my office is, all the roads around it have it. And it blankets everything. And it picks up everything you're doing. And it surveils. And the studies show, LA Times, Wired Magazine has it, 5G causes cancer, but big tech and big wireless doesn't want you to know. But that was 2 years ago. That was like 1,000 years ago. You're not allowed to say what Wired Magazine said back then. So the surveillance is the big angle, but you can type in cell phone radiation, lowered immunity. It doesn't matter whether it's 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G, 6G. China's already testing 6 and 7G. That just means new technology. 5G is just super powerful, but because it's so powerful, it only goes so far. And so that's why people are so concerned. But I mean, 5G is almost a distraction for the other Gs, and they're scared because whether it's in Japan or whether it's in Russia or whether it's in Europe or the UK or the US, people are going out and burning down 5G towers. And I fundamentally think that's not good because it makes it about the violence of burning it down. They've got insurance companies, they've got money, they put them back up. You need to get the studies, folks, and get informed and go to the city council, go to the local government, have them ban it. That's where we're having success. And file lawsuits, and schools that have them next to them have had huge cancer clusters. They're having them removed from towns everywhere. And so I really think that's the best response. If I was the 5G folks, I would burn down some of my own towers so we would be the victims. No, we need to politically and culturally and with information burn them down by exposing what they're doing. But regardless, they misrepresented a couple weeks ago with David Icke said on your show. He was simply pointing out that 5G is connected to lowering immunity and that all the places where you see the worst outbreaks are where the 5G are. Well, that's where you've got all of people close together and people all not in natural environments, and all of that adds together. But even if David Icke was wrong, and I believe he was right, don't we as adults have a right to hear what he said? But now because some cell towers got burned down, now we can't hear David Icke, even though he didn't say burn down cell towers. So again, that's that misrepresentation of what's going on.
I feel like sometimes I'm the only person shouting this echo of the First Amendment, and this whole concept of freedom of speech, because sometimes I say it and people look at me funny. And then maybe it's because I'm an American in this country, but, it's in my DNA, Alex. When I grew up in the 70s, it was just rattled back at me. And yet it feels like it's been slowly taken away from so many people out there. And in the digital space, maybe it never existed, where sometimes I feel like I have to say it 3 or 4 times before people say, oh, yeah, you're right, we should have that freedom. And that's a bit disheartening. I saw you doing this You Can't Close America rally. We obviously see Trump really trying to push us back to work, which I think is the way forward. How much are you in contact with his administration, with his advisors? I know you were a big part of getting him elected, and he gave you that compliment that it was. You guys are very aligned now in what you're thinking.
Well, let me just put it to you this way. Brian, what you're saying is totally true, because when it comes down to it, it's physical action, and they're using the peer pressure in counties in Texas. 70+ counties in Texas have 0 cases of COVID-19. Austin, again, has like 8, 9 deaths. And you go outside, it's like end of the world stuff, even though there's like deaths every day on the highway. And so, yes, Pennsylvania has passed laws that they can't shut things down. Other states are. And the answer is we, the people in our government, saying, listen, we know that it's crazy that 35,000 people die of flu every year, but we're 330 million people. It's still very rare. We don't shut things down because of that. You can't shut us down. You can't tell us we're non-essential, but this other business is. You know, they told us that, oh, globalism, we're going to get rid of factories, get rid of farming. You'll all be service economies. Now they tell us service isn't essential. So this is an economic attack, and I totally agree with you, Brian. I'm going to lead demonstrations. Owen Schroyer this Saturday is going to be down at the Texas Capitol with a demonstration. I'll be there as well. We're going to launch a website tomorrow that deals with not closing America and trying to organize people. But You Can't Close America rally, Texas State Capitol steps, Saturday, April 18th, 2020, 12 to 2 p.m. Central. And we're seeing amazing action all over the country, all over the world, of people just calling this out for what it is and not giving the moral high ground to the Communist Chinese and the World Health Organization and then the bureaucracy of the NIH and the bureaucracy of the system trying to say, oh, it's settled, do this, when their own science is fraud. They are putting a digital, economic, cultural, medical straitjacket on us, and we must revolt against it. We must say no to it. And so I agree with you. The answer is, once this opens back up, I usually went to mom and pop restaurants. I usually stayed at boutique hotels. I usually went and shopped at thrift stores. When this is over, unless big corporations say we're pro-America, we're pro-freedom, and like fly a flag out front, unless they fly an InfoWars flag or a pro-human flag, you know, an image of the nuclear family, unless they do that, that's under attack, I am never going to support the system. If I have to charter private planes every time I fly, if I have to do whatever, I'm breaking with them more than ever. They've tried to leverage their corporate power over countries to shut our economy down, to set a precedent, to force Trump to accept this martial law of the corporations directed by the UN. And so everything now, Nigel Farage came out and he said, my new Brexit is ending the police state and bringing the economy back. And that is going to be the whole economy. It's not being followers that sit there and, oh, I wore my mask, I'm an idiot. When the very UN tried to say, you know, 8 weeks ago, oh, Trump, don't block people from China. They say it's a deadly biosystem. It's killing everybody. He goes, okay, block flights from China. They go, oh, God, no, that's xenophobic. That just shows it's all crap. It's emotional. It's a power grab. And it's blue cities, blue counties, globalist corporations acting in a strike against the free market, a strike against human will, an attempt to make us submit to them, and a total domination over who we are. And so it must be met with action. And, you know, I've been told by the establishment, this is their big move, that if you do this and if you challenge us, we're going to not just destroy you, we're going to indict you, we're going to take your children. And I told them, I said, go to hell. In fact, it's not even a hard decision to make. I feel so good, Brian, telling them to go to hell that I am so happy.
Who's telling you
them.
that?
I only feel good when I'm fighting them because that's where the victory is. My spirit, and you know, Trump said something that's totally true. And Trump's not perfect, none of us are, but he said, the deepest thing I ever did was learn how to be shallow. Well, if the subconscious mind is hundreds, if not thousands of times more powerful than the conscious cerebral cortex, limited focus of our consciousness, shallowness is not shallowness. It's the depth of that. It's the immediacy of what you first impressions are really always we know what's real. And because it's not a first impression, it's the knowledge of all your ancestors, the knowledge of your whole life, the electrochemical swarm you're in, the sixth sense projection they're putting out, their intent. That immediate snapshot is reality. So again, the greatest depths is the shallows. And my shallows tell me, fight to the death against this lockdown. Don't believe that this virus, the evidence shows it's super weak. It's a hoax. And understand that if you bow to this, you've now prepared them to launch the real bioattacks, knowing you'll submit when they depopulate you. Well, I'm not rolling over and dying. And I want the New World Order to know if they want to fight, they better believe they've got one, my friend.
Are they calling you out directly, or is this in so many ways that they're trying to quiet you, silence you, put you in jail?
Well, you know, I've promised not to talk about this at this point, but they go after your family. And they go after people that are close to you, not just your children, not just your wife. And they tell you that we're going to put you in prison. We're going to set you up. We have the power unless you submit to us. And they've done a lot of stuff to me in the past, a lot of persecution. But I used the World War II analogy before they had good radar. When the bombers were flying in out of North Africa into Italy, or the bombers were flying in out of London, England, into Germany, they went towards the flak because the Germans would have their big anti-aircraft guns over their tank factories and their bomber factories. And so they knew, it's like, well, we're here to do a mission. You turn towards the flak. So their attacks only gives me my guidance. I'm like, okay, the worst attack is right there. Okay, so now they've got the FBI at my office. Okay, now they're telling me I better back down. Oh, I need to double down on this. Okay. Oh, thank you for the persecution. Thank you for giving me, because I don't have radar that, this is the way, this is where I attack. Thank you very much for that. Because I didn't get into this to win in their system. I got into this to overthrow their anti-human system and restore the human system, because I love myself so much. I want my children and grandchildren and their great-grandchildren to have providence and to be able to have a decent future, not a post-human future. So the death of the species threatens me infinity more than my own physical death. And then my very cells say, yes, yes, yes. Oh my God, they're it's like the 4th of July and my birthday and Christmas all rolled into one, when they're trying to gloat and threaten me and put a gun to my head. I'm like, I've now really reached where I'm supposed to be. Now I'm within striking distance. And now I'm going to give them the full weight of the attack. And so I'm serious. But then the only emotion is I'm not strong enough. My body's not strong enough to carry the spirit. I'm like, the spirit's willing, but the flesh is weak. I'm like, I want to destroy them. I cannot believe how bad they are. So it's a total paradox. But yeah, I mean, we've definitely crossed the threshold. The enemy is throwing its full weight against us right now. And I'm as high as a kite, Brian.
I can tell. Do you ever think that your entire 25 years of independent media coverage has prepared you for this moment only? Do you have that feeling?
Oh, exactly. It's God. Like, I'm just a vessel. Every weight was put on me. Like, this happened 20 years ago. I couldn't have handled it 10 years ago. And I got to where I actually enjoyed the weight and enjoyed the persecution. So I'm not a masochist. I don't like pain. But I realize it's goal-oriented. So it's kind of like a V for Vendetta, where he puts her in the FEMA camp. He tortures her. And it's not a good thing, but she says, kill me. And V says, now you're free. And exactly, it's like, as soon as you reach that point where they put the gun to your head, and they say, we're going to blow your brains out if you don't do it, you go, good, pull the trigger. That is finally where you're free. And everything was building towards that point. Everything was building towards that moment. And that's that place where you're like, oh my God, I feel so close to God. I feel so satisfied. This isn't even real. But that's what this is. That's what this is all about.
Are you still fighting the Sandy Hook charges? And do you have a different perspective on that now that it's been a year, 2 years since that all kind of happened, and you talked about it on Rogan and you talked about it on other podcasts?
Oh, that's a great point. I mean, Again, I wasn't that sophisticated. I knew about the New World Order and globalism, but until you get caught in the jaws of a PR campaign by the deep state, you really don't know what it is. So they had Jussie Smollett stage a racial attack, and they had ABC News say that Trump let Turkey blow up a Kurdish camp that was really the Kentucky shootout, shooting up some gasoline cans. So babies in incubators didn't happen. There's been so many staged events.
To continue watching the rest of the episode for free, visit our website londonreal.tv or click the link in the description below.